side of the street, causing huge amounts of damage, but the intention appears just to be to terrorize and demoralize the local population there. Of course, in Myanmar, not an affluent country at all, owning a car is a very precious possession. So clearly the intention just to destroy private property in much the same way as we've seen from the military. But interestingly, I was checking in with a contact in Mandalay, a city which has also seen a lot of violence in the last 7 days. And the person I spoke to there said it was curiously quiet. They said that was even more unnerving. And I think, again, you can see this atmosphere that the security forces have created, because they're worried when there is violence, and then they're worried when there isn't violence. They're sitting there waiting for the violence to start. And I think it's an indication of just how horrible the situation in Myanmar is at the moment. Tony Chang.
Who gives a shit? Chile may be comparable to New Zealand.
Lloyd Austin's trip to New Delhi follows similar visits to South Korea and Japan. They're seen as an effort to improve ties and counter China's growing influence in the
But New Zealand is just, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Qatar, Bahrain, Estonia, Sri Lanka, that's surprising, Ghana, Singapore 30.
Wide-ranging defense cooperation and expanding military-to-military engagement across services, information sharing, cooperation in emerging sectors of defense, and mutual logistics support. We reviewed the wide gamut of bilateral and multilateral exercises and agreed to pursue enhanced cooperation with the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Central Command, and Africa Command.
Ajay Shukla is the Defence and Security Affairs Analyst. He says China will
Mongolia.
feature high in talks.
The elephant in the room whenever India and the United States talk is clearly China. And that is likely to have figured right at the top of the agenda, especially given that the Indian army has been in a face-off on the Himalayan border for 11 months now in Kashmir. The Indians also cooperate with the United States Navy in the South China Sea, in the Indo-Pacific area. That would also have come up for discussion. Also, the major defense partnership, India is a major defense partner of the United States. They would have discussed ways of taking that partnership forward, joint exercises, joint military exercises, I should say. And so overall, from the United
So
States,
not Australasia, Oceania. It's doing pretty good.
China continues to loom large as a major security threat, and allies will be consulted and taken into account as and when the United States takes any decisions in the area. If the US ever gets together a 1,000-ship navy, as it has spoken of doing, including the ships of all its allies, the Indian Navy, which is a 150-ship navy, is going to be right up there at the top of that grouping. There has been a lot of cooperation, many joint exercises, many training exercises, and
fucking die.
building up of interoperability between Indian forces and US forces in the Indo-Pacific. So to that extent, there is a great role for India.
Now, relations between the US and China remain strained after hours of tense talks. Their two-day meeting in Alaska ended with both sides saying it was constructive, but differences remain. Our diplomatic editor James Bays has more from Anchorage.
The Chinese delegation arriving for a second day of these talks. Is the atmosphere of your talks improving? Face-to-face again with their US counterparts. This time the door was quickly closed, and reporters were not invited into the room where less than 24 hours earlier the two sides had spent over an hour denouncing each other in public. When the talks concluded this time, the words were more moderate in tone, although the US still made clear the areas where there was the biggest disagreement.
We certainly know and knew going in that there are a number of areas where we are fundamentally at odds. cyberspace. And it's no surprise that when we raised those issues clearly and directly, we got a defensive response.
There were also, though, the US said, issues where the two countries' interests